Okay, I'm going to turn on the backlight. Right. Now, notice where the backlight is hitting. It is hitting a side of his face, and you see it hitting the top of his head. But the one thing that it is doing, it is separating him from the background. The reason I got this light at kind of an angle is so that I can keep it out of the shot. I don't want it to be in the camera shot. But I'm going to move it a little bit closer to him. Is it? Can you see the? No, it's not. You still don't see the light. Okay, so as much as we can, we want to light his back. Sometimes they call it a hair light because, especially on women, they love to see the highlights in their hair. And looking at different hairstyles and all that, you would love to see the highlight in their hair. And I don't guess he wants to take that cap off, but you don't have to. No, okay. All right. But it is pretty intense. Now, why do we start with the backlight? Well, we're starting with the backlight because we don't want to drown out the backlight and not know exactly where it's hitting. But it is very effective when we know where that backlight is and hitting it the way we want it to hit. Now, this particular light, it's an LED light, and it does have this one feature, which is a dimmer. This light has a dimmer. So I can dim it all the way down as far as that. And you still got some light on him. And so I can brighten it up, and I can get very intense like that. One thing I did not mention earlier is that there is a device called a light meter, where you can actually measure the exact amount of light that's on your subject by holding that meter up, and it has a scale on there where you can measure how much light that you have. Just like in audio, it's measured in decibels, and so those points you would be able to see. I have been doing this so much, I can use a light meter. I used to use a light meter. I just don't have one right now. But I eyeball it so much until I can see it and feel it and tell what I'm doing. And many photographers do the same thing. They don't always use a light meter. Even if they got one, you notice many times they just leave it in their bag. They don't even use it when they're out doing things. Okay, so now you see what happens. Have you noticed also sometimes on television, on the news, when they have people who don't want their face to be seen, and all you can hear is their voice. They'll distort their voices, and they'll have a backlight on their head. There are cases where that's all you would use is a backlight. You could also darken the iris on your camera, where you won't. Let me see. I'm gonna put my iris on manual, and see when you can darken it like that, and you can't even see the person's face. Isn't that amazing? But you still see where your light is hidden. So you know somebody is there because you pull them from the background. So you know somebody is there, but you can't tell who it is. So if you were trying to basically disguise a person's identity, that's the kind of thing you would do. I can increase the amount of light, backlight, just a little bit. And we get just a little bit more on him. But that's pretty much what I would do if I was trying to disguise him, or if I was trying to distort him and we did not want to know the identity of that person. That's what we would do. I'm going to give him a little bit less head space. All right, so now you see what the backlight does. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to hit him with the key light. Boom. There's some key light. Now, depending on how much more I want to see of him, I can raise the iris on the camera. See what happens? So if I raise the iris on the camera and I'm able to see facial features and I can see his eyes and all that, I would say that the backlight now is too intense. So you can adjust that backlight because you see what it looks like it's white right there? Well, to complement your subject a little bit, let's tone down that backlight. And now you can see more of his face. So now, this is actually, you could work with that and maybe raise the iris just a little bit more, or if you want more light, you could also move the key light in a little bit closer and lighten him up more. But also, to be on the safe side, what most photographers are doing today, because we know that we're going to take it into what is called post-editing, I would not increase the light here as far as the key light is concerned. If I feel like I need more, I could fix it in post-editing if there's time. I like to do most everything right there with the camera because there may not always be time for post-editing. But if I really want to complement the subject more and get what we call the perfect shot and have the light hitting from every angle it's supposed to hit, because see, the left side of him is real dark, isn't it? Look under his chin. You got a dark shadow right here. Yeah, it's a real dark shadow right here because your key light is only lighting this side. But now, if we bring in a field light, we can fix that. So we can see more detail on that side if we want to. I'm going to bring the field light in just a little bit closer and look at what it does. Now you can see his whole face. And man, we could just about take a snapshot right there and send it to his wife. Say, now you got an updated picture. So here he is, looking more like Lester Holt. What we want to see is under his chin. Do you see the shadow becoming more like a little V under his chin, almost like he got a goatee? That's what you want to see. That's how you know you got 3-point lighting going on. When we turn off the key light, when we turn off the field light, look at what happens. You got shadow on one side. Now, you can use a shot like this, especially in some of the dramatic things that you're trying to, if he was like a bad guy or a villain, like they do in the movies, most of the time, they like to darken one side of that person. And in fact, sometimes they darken the whole person and you can see mostly just the eyes. That's where you start using other type of lighting. But like I said, with the 3-point lighting, that's what I really want to focus on today, to let you see the basic setup for lighting. Boom. Now, let's think about in church settings. When you set your lights up in church, this is what you want to get on your subject. You want your lights set up where they're up above the subject or up above the pulpit, coming from 2 different sides. You don't want a light coming straight in front of the person. You want to know why? I'll show you. Let's use this light. I'm going to turn this light here off. And what if I turn off the back light also? And just use this light. If I brought this light in front of him, it may not do exactly what I'm really trying to demonstrate, but overall, here is what a lot of people are trying to do. Let's do this. This is what a lot of people think they're supposed to be doing, and that is making the light come straight on to the subject. And they think that what you really need is to lighten him up is more intense light. So if he had more intense light and he was lit up, this is what you see on a lot of church programs. What do you see behind his head? Move your head up and down. Shadow. You're gonna get shadows. Now, if he was a little closer to the wall, like a lot of times people do, you will see more of that shadow. But basically, this is what you don't want, is a shot where you got, where it's coming straight into his face, and if he were to look right into that light, he would probably start squinting because he can't stand that bright light in his eyes. So this is what you don't want. Then you start fixing it by, number one, using diffusion material to spread the light out where he won't be squinting. That helps. You don't see as much of a shadow, but ideally, it would need to be about like we had it, where the field light is there and the key light is there. That's good, even if you don't have a backlight. Yeah, if you don't have a backlight, it's still good, but the backlight just makes it a little bit more pleasant, and it gives it more of a three-dimensional look. And so he can move around and turn left or right, and you got a good picture. Beautiful picture. Okay, so now we may do something a little bit different. What if we were doing an interview set? Did I finish saying what I was saying about being in church? You would have, you said you wanted like rafters or something up top, and then have, some lights where you got some coming from the left and some coming from the right, but not just directly to the center. Gotcha. If it's this directly coming in the center, you're going to see that shadow. Okay. All right. Now, where you are, you may not see much of a shadow because you got a lot of stuff in the background. I think a choir stand is back there. Right. So it really may not be so hard with you. You could work without a backlight, honestly. Because you're going to have lights on in the church anyhow. I don't know if you're losing fluorescence or not. I can't remember. But in a way, with the cameras we're using now, you don't have to really worry so much about that. And I would like to look at yours. I still haven't seen it yet, so I need to look at it. And but nevertheless, just so that you can get the idea of how to pull the subject from the background.
Change those light out with LED lighting.
Oh yeah, yes. They do look so much better, don't they? Okay. All right. Next thing I want to show you. You see how the lights are set up now, and you know how that works. Suppose now I wanted to do an interview set. My lights would be the same, except what you would need now is, and I always use Lester Holt or Oprah Winfrey as my samples. And I really like looking at NBC the way they do their interviews, especially when they're using Lester Holt as the interviewer, and then looking at the subject. Any one of you, come on up, Judy. All right. You can sit in that chair. In this scenario, what we got is the camera looking over the shoulder of, say, for instance, if he was the interviewer, the person in the red shirt, and the person that is over there, Pastor Bo, he would be the person who was being interviewed. All right, he's the interviewee. You want your camera set just slightly, put it more to an angle here. If we were using one camera, for the one camera, this is what I'd be able to do. I would get the back of his head. Oh, let me change my field light, because my field light becomes his backlight. Okay? My field light becomes his backlight. And you should be able to see the back of his head. Okay, I got the camera's a little high just because he's down a little bit lower. so I'm not getting what I would be getting because, he's sitting down low. But you get the point, okay? I would then be able, with this camera, from this angle, I would be able to go in and get a tight shot of my subject, okay? And I could get a one shot, just a one single shot of you. And then I can come back out and I can get him in the shot. Now, you see that backlight in the shot? I would have to set it where my backlight is not in the shot. These days, there's a light, they call it a hair light, that actually sits right above, and you actually have it on a stand, and it comes across and shines directly down on the subject. I hadn't got one yet, but that's what I'm gonna get. But for the sake of our demonstration, this is what I would have to do. Okay, I'm trying to get it out of the shot.
You got just that foot, one of the feet of it.
You can still see that? Are you seeing this?
No. That last
The foot of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a little more.
Okay.
Now it's out.
Now it's out of the shot.
Right.
Okay. But nevertheless, I adjust it so that his backlight becomes the key light for my other subject. And I would put the camera here. I would not put the camera here because this is what they call crossing the axis. If he's looking at him talking and he's looking at him talking, the camera has to be on the same side. See, it is on this side over here. And so if I had another camera, I'd put that camera here, not over there. Because if you're crossing the axis, he's looking in the same angle that the other person's looking at. Look at him. And I want you to look at him. All right. So in this case, when on a tight shot, when he is looking at the subject, he's looking a little bit more toward his left, right? Okay. Now, because I got this cable on this camera for the monitor, I'm not going to be able to just, well, let's see. I'm going to stop it, and then I'm going to go over there. Let's see if I can do that. So the whole idea is if you had two cameras on an interview set, you would want your two cameras to be on the same side as your key light. And if they were the opposite sides, then it would not look natural. It would look like your subjects are talking to somebody else and not to each other. You want it to look like, even on a tight shot, that they are talking to each other. And so you would not want to cross the axis. One last thing about lighting, if you were going to do an interview set like this, or if you're going to set it up for an interview, the ideal thing is to have 4 lights instead of 3. The reason is so that you would have, and I do have another light just like that one, I just didn't bring it with me. I thought I was just going to be talking about 3-point lighting, but I would have another light like that behind you or behind him. What I would do in this situation is I would put this light over there so that we'll have the same kind of light facing each other. And I put the light that's just like that over here in this place. So that way you will have a key light and a field light. And he would have a key light and a field light. In this situation, another thing I could do is, if I wanted to, I could eliminate this this backlight. I could remove this backlight, and if I want things to look a little bit more even, I can put this key light where the backlight was. It's okay, we'll just unplug it. So that my lights would be exactly the same, and the lights can crisscross. Or, well, let me take that back. The lights are not supposed to crisscross when you only have 2 lights, because your light source have to be coming from the same direction. So your backlight now is going to be his key light. As I'm lighting him, I should be lighting the back of your head. And this light will go on this side also. Why? Because your natural light and your key light should be on one side. Get it? So your dark side is going to be the same as his dark side. And I would angle your chairs a little bit more like this. And your chair would be angled a little bit more like that. Okay?
Okay.
So now, with your backlight, I am lighting him. And with your key light, it becomes his backlight. On the same side. Which is another reason why I like looking at what they do with Lester Holt. Old NBC. I noticed they love to have a dark room, and they turn off as much of the overhead lights as they can. Now, of course, I'm limited because of this cable right here that's hooked up to the monitor, and it's short. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to put the camera exactly where I want it. But I think you get the idea. You'll be looking. Now, if you look at Julian again, and I'm gonna go into a tight shot of you. And I would get that same, well, let me focus. So when you're looking at him, you're looking toward the camera. But your eyes won't be on the camera, your eyes will be on him. And again, that looks more natural. When y'all watch the news now and you see interviews, not just the news, but something like Dateline NBC or any of those interview shows on television, now you're going to start thinking about where is the light. Notice the side that's got the most intense light. Many times, it's a scenario just like this, 2 lights. But they may have, their lights might be larger than these. These soft boxes, like I say, they come in different sizes. A lot of times, they have a setup where a room might be smaller than this, but they will have bigger soft boxes. And those soft boxes will take up the space, whereas you would have, in my case, I would use 2 lights back there, and 2 lights back here. So I would have 4 lights, but I can actually do this with 2 lights. To me, this still looks fine even with my 2 lights, but it's just a matter of, do I really want that much shadow on that side? Would I like to have some kind of fill? If I wanted to have a fill, I could still put a fill in the middle to try to hit both of them, you know, because it just takes down some of the shadow. So I could still do this with 3 lights, but ideally, if I was going to do an interview set and the room is big enough, I would really like to use 4 lights. There would be another light crossing to that light, another light over here crossing to that light. They can be the same kind of lights, or you could use, like in my situation, I have this little LED light here, which is really a white light, but those right there are a little bit different in their light temperature than this. So I like using these as backlights so that I can get more of a highlight on the hair and pull their shoulders away from the background. So that, in a nutshell, is basically what 3-point lighting is all about. Now, with that said, 3-point lighting is how you would light your subjects. If you wanted to do other type of lighting, there are so many other. You can have studio Fresnel lights shining down on objects on the set. You know, if you want to shoot a vase or something on the set, or to highlight a plant, you can get little light. There are ellipsoid lights, there are spotlights, and all of those things that you can do. Color lights, and you can shine certain colors in different places. That's the creative part of lighting. You can do all of that. Even on the outdoors, you can do very creative things with lighting. That gets into a whole different advanced area of lighting. I'm only teaching you about 3-point lighting, which is the basics, what you need when you're lighting a subject.
Yeah, basically, as a church, I don't see us going beyond the basic.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of churches are going towards the different colors and all that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,